everyone claimed was true about Trump, namely that his family had been compromised and was on the take from foreign hostile powers. And this, frankly, is why I'm not optimistic. Do you think the press, which is co-opted by the Biden family into believing their big lie, is going to go all Watergate on this? An in-Justice Department that slow-walked any charges at all on Hunter is not about to turn around and go all Elliot Ness either. But let's be really clear here. Whistleblowers say the IRS recommended felony tax charges against Hunter, but they were overruled by the Department of Injustice. And note that it took 5 years to bring even these limited charges over a couple of tax claims and a gun possession charge. Charges that could have been dealt with in a matter of weeks if they involved an ordinary taxpayer. And quite probably with a stiffer penalty if they involved an ordinary citizen as well. The Justice Department and everybody else involved clearly gave Hunter special treatment. This is the sort of thing that happens in third world countries, where the party in power keeps trying to throw its opponents in jail in the belief that if they bring enough muscle and control enough of what people think, they can stay in power forever. Sound familiar? I mean, we know for a fact, it was right there on his laptop, that Hunter committed multiple, countless violations around crack smoking and sale and possession. The sort of activity that his dad once voted to lock people up for and throw away the key. Then there are the interstate trafficking violations, the federal level prostitution law violations that he almost surely is guilty of. There's the Foreign Agent Registration Act, which Hunter also clearly violated when he failed to register his work for overseas governments. Some guys got 5 years for that not too long ago, by the way, but not our Hunter. And then, of course, there's the big kahuna, or should I say, the big guy. All the funny business and money transfers and everything else that went along with a former crackhead turned lobbyist's blinding success. Now, the evidence is credible that Hunter was engaged in some pretty serious influence peddling on behalf of countries like China and Ukraine. That is the only conceivable reason why Hunter was working for Burisma as an oil and gas consultant, despite having no experience in the business beyond filling up his dad's classic Corvette after taking it for a spin. Burisma, recall, found itself on the wrong side of the U.S. government after the government in Ukraine was overthrown in 2014 and needed a quick way to get back in the good books. This all reminds me of a funny story Joe Biden told back when he had most of his marbles.
So I got Ukraine, and I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Now, plenty of people claim that this is fake news and disinformation, just like the Hunter laptop. Now, I can't say one way or the other, but if nothing else, what a good reminder that Joe Biden could once speak in complete sentences. But remember, there is still the question of why Burisma was paying Hunter $1 million a year. And why was his salary cut as soon as his dad stopped being vice president? Well, here's a possibility.
President Biden met with at least 14 of Hunter's business associates while he was vice president.
Then Vice President Joe Biden had dinner with his son Hunter, along with Hunter's business associates from Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And the day after the dinner, a Burisma executive sent a note to Hunter, quoting, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together."
Hunter's lucrative business dealings often included giving as much as 50% of his earnings to his dad.
Now, though, with these minor charges filed, Democrats and Joe Biden can say, hey, it's over. It's done. Nothing to see here. And get away with everything short of murder. All right, time for tonight's panel. Joining me is Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen and Washington correspondent for the Australian newspaper, Adam Creighton. Annalise, Adam, thank you so much for joining us here on the U.S. Report tonight. Now, Annalise, Hunter Biden is scheduled to appear next month in the Delaware courthouse, where he is expected to plead guilty to 2 minor tax crimes and a gun charge, according to court documents. Annalise, what is the reaction in the United States to news of this plea deal? Do people think that this is just totally bogus, or do they just want to let Hunter skate on this?
Look, I think out in the greater America, in the greater population, people probably don't talk about this as much as you might think. In DC circles, it's certainly especially a pet cause for Republicans. But I think the other thing to remember with all this is we don't necessarily know that the judge is going to sign off on this plea deal. It is quite extraordinary for a judge to ignore some kind of agreement like that, but it's not impossible. And given the circumstances and what's been agreed to, there is every chance that they could intervene and put their own spin on this, say, no, these aren't serious enough penalties if you're agreeing to plead guilty. And especially with the gun diversion charge, that's getting a lot of attention. That's a particular charge where there is issues around equality. That's not generally what the general public would be slapped with if they committed the same offence of lying on a federal form, on continuing to use that firearm and disposing of it in the way that was disposed of behind a supermarket in a dumpster. If it's not a major issue, I would say this is at least going to be a huge one that they hit during the 2024 presidential election.
And I recall that the Secret Service at one point intervened in that gun case and actually tried to recover the gun after Hunter disposed of it so that it would not be a big issue. But Adam, doesn't this play right into the Republicans' hands to say there is one law for the Bidens and one law for everybody else?
Yes, look, I think it certainly does. I think the question of the particular charges themselves, I agree with Annalise, will kind of wash over most Americans, but it seems that the evidence more broadly is building up that there was some sort of corruption which actually involved Joe Biden in relation to foreign governments many years ago when he was vice president, or maybe when he was after vice president. And it's increasingly damning. The whistleblowers that the evidence that just came out today was extraordinarily damning. And, we're yet to digest the whole entirety of it. I think it's only been out for a few hours, I understand. But if even half of it's true, I mean, it suggests massive corruption through the IRS and the Department of Justice in favour of the Biden family, which is very worrying.
Now, Annalise, actually, I want to come back to you on that point there that